in Buffalo, where we always know it's going to be cold, possibly will be snowy. Coldest game Lamar Jackson has ever played in his life. Wind chill, I think, is going to make the feeling dip below zero. And I hope it doesn't mar the game. It looks good if it's snowing and you see the big clouds of breath. I just don't want it to impact the ability of the teams to go out and have the best game possible. I want to see heavyweight match between Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. I really don't want it to be affected by the elements.
You don't want it to be like San Francisco when San Francisco went up there and it was like 6 inches of snow. The players could barely run, and you just saw how comfortable Buffalo was in that situation and just how uncomfortable the other team was. The same thing's going to happen with the Rams. The Rams are used to playing indoors. They walk outside. They wake up every day at 70 degrees and it's sunny. And that snow, that weather, those conditions will definitely have an effect on those guys, especially they're used to playing on turf compared to playing on that grass.
And the Bills need the Ravens to be a little uncomfortable because when they played back in week 4, the Ravens made the Bills extremely uncomfortable in a 35-10 victory. It started with an 87-yard touchdown run from Derrick Henry. The Ravens never looked back. Now, the teams are very different than they were back in late September, early October, but it's still hovering, the memory of that for both teams. And that's one of the reasons why the Ravens are favored on the road. That still surprises me that the Ravens are favored because the Bills are an elite team. But the Ravens seem to have just a little bit more than Buffalo. And
Yeah,
that's not a slight against the Bills. The Ravens just have a lot. The Ravens have one of the most talented teams in the league.
and sometimes you just find teams that just don't match up well against. And I think for Buffalo, that's the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, this is a big physical team. They lean on you. They have a 300-pound fullback. They have a 250-pound running back. And when Todd Monken, which I think he's the key to the game, when he decides to say, hey, we're going to run the football, we're going to put in Derrick Henry's hands. We're not going to try to, pad Lamar's stats by passing the ball all over the place. We're going to run the football. That's when they become a different team. The mindset shifts. Um, they just physically dominate and impose their will on people, especially the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills tried to play 8 guys in the box. They tried to load up the box, and it just looked like their DBs were afraid to tackle. They just could not handle the speed and size and just the power of Derrick Henry, Mike.
Now, as it relates to making the adjustment from Southern California to a colder climate, I know you grew up in Illinois, played college football there, but you're in San Diego to start your career, and then you go to New England. Had you gotten soft by living in San Diego and not playing in weather much? Was it a transition for you to go to New England?
It wasn't, because you think about it. Once in San Diego, my season was always over in December, basically the first week of January. So I would always come back home to Chicago and spend my off seasons in Chicago. So I had January, February, March that I had to deal with bad weather. So it was never no big deal. And to me, it's all about who you are as a person. You're not gonna put me in snow, and I'm worried about how cold I am. I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna play physical. I'm gonna enjoy the elements. And just like when we used to play Coach Dungy, them teams, Mike, they used to come in and they used to have these long sleeves. They used to walk up to us, hey man, you guys are crazy. How are you playing with no sleeves? So they were already concerned, they were already worried. So this is a big deal. The snow, the Rams, they're not used to it. They haven't practiced in it. When you practice in it, when you wake up to it, when you just normally you go to the grocery store, you see the snow, you're so used to it. But when you're from California, you're not used to this, and it's definitely a shell shock to you.
Hey, one thing that the guys from California won't be used to is the hazard of getting out of your car and landing on ice and then landing on ice face first like I did the other day. So, yeah, hopefully there won't be any ice on the field, but watch your step getting out of the cars when you guys get to where you're going when you get to Buffalo and Philadelphia. In that Bills game, and you try to make, the argument for week 4 doesn't matter. How much does that? Because I'm sure you've been through that, where you come across a team in the postseason that you played in the regular season. Hell, the years you guys were seeing the Colts in the postseason every year, you cross paths with them pretty much every year in the regular season. how relevant to the players is what happened when the teams got together in the regular season?
I'll give you an example like this. In 2007, we played the Giants. At the end of the year, we beat the Giants, but the Giants played a heck of a football game. They were physical. They knew that they could play with us, and that gave them a lot of confidence going into the playoffs. We meet them again in the Super Bowl, and with that confidence was elevated, and they just absolutely physically manhandled us in the Super Bowl, Mike. So it matters. And I tell you, Buffalo's, they're sitting back trying to figure out, okay, are we tough enough as a defense to stop this offense? Can we stop Derrick Henry? And that's going to be the story of the game. If they stop Derrick Henry and they shut him down, and now all of a sudden they just have to game plan against Lamar, the game totally changes because now Lamar has to pass the ball. He has to spread the ball around. But
I mean, that's what Coach Belichick would do, right? That's what Coach Belichick would do. Game planning against this Ravens offense. Even though Lamar is likely the MVP, he's the first-team All-Pro quarterback. Derrick Henry is the difference maker this year because you add him with Lamar and the whole thing reaches a higher level of production and efficiency. If you can eliminate the Derrick Henry factor and put Lamar in the elements, coldest game he's ever played in, ball may be fluttering around in the wind, Zay Flowers, we're not going to see him, most likely. We'll get the official word today on that, but he's missed the last game and most of the one before that when he suffered the knee injury in Week 18. Make it a game where Lamar Jackson has to pass. And I think that's their best chance, and that's their only chance to make it different than Week 4. Because, again, the tone was set with Derrick Henry off to the races for an 87-yard touchdown.
Yeah, the Bills' defense, I mean, in the first game, they were pretty conservative, Mike. It wasn't like they were doing a lot of blitzing. They were rushing for, trying to keep Lamar in the pocket. He had all day. The offensive line did a pretty good job. But you have to expect this week that it's going to be different, that they're going to have to send more people at Lamar. They're going to have to truly, truly load up the box, even if it means bringing the free safety down and maybe putting 8 or 9 guys in the box just to slow down this run and not be so protective on the passing. But Lamar, one thing about Lamar, he loves these tight ends. These tight ends, they're big, they're athletic. Mark Andrews, he's catching touchdowns. Isaiah Likely, he's like a big slot receiver. So, I mean, this offense is very dangerous outside of Derrick Henry. But you're right, Mike. You're spot on. That's the number one thing they have to do. They have to slow down Derrick Henry.
And this is another reason to put it in Lamar's hands. Now, Ravens fans, I'm just saying what Lamar said last week. This isn't a criticism. What we do here is we process the words that have been uttered, and we point out the relevant ones. And when Lamar said a week and a half ago, as he was preparing for the postseason opener against the Steelers, in the past he's been antsy in the postseason. He's been nervous. He's been aware of the consequences of losing in the postseason. Very different than the regular season. Regular season, dust yourself off and you get another one coming. Postseason, if you lose, that's it. You're done. You don't have another one until September. It's a different vibe. It's a different feeling. And Lamar was fine last Saturday, obviously. The Ravens dismantled the Pittsburgh Steelers. But if you can make it a game where Lamar has to go win it and you neutralize Derrick Henry, that puts Lamar in a position where he's going to be cold, it's going to be windy, and he's going to be feeling that one or done, go home if you fail, pressure that wasn't there when they beat the Bills 35-10 in Week 4.
Yeah, and a lot more pressure, too, because of all the emphasis on the MVPs and all the previous MVPs that he has. I mean, you think about what he's done this year, Mike, over 40 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and just we've never seen a quarterback do what he's been able to do, both passing and running the football. To me, he's the clear MVP of the league. He's been absolutely fantastic. But everything, when it comes down to Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, it's going to come down to if they can win Super Bowls. We know that these are great individual players, but can they elevate their team and win a Super Bowl? And that's what we're waiting for Lamar Jackson to do. And I think we're waiting for Lamar to do it probably a little bit faster than Josh Allen. So this is going to be the challenge. Can he get it done in the fourth quarter? And it's going to come down to that.
Lamar's 3-4 in the postseason. Josh Allen is 6-5. And I think back to seeing Lamar Jackson playing for Louisville in his Heisman winning season and seeing how he could run it, seeing how he could throw it, and thinking, man, this is going to be interesting if he can do all that at the NFL level. And he can, and he has, and he will continue to do so. He's most likely to be the MVP. It'll be his third, youngest ever to win 3. And there really isn't a player like him. And what's unfortunate about this one, and yeah, the Chiefs are out there waiting for the winner if they can beat the Texans, and that is not a small if. The Chiefs happy they don't have to play both of them this year like they did last year on the road last year. But whoever loses this game, the quarterback that loses this game is going to have that narrative intensify that you can't deliver. And this is the problem when you're in an era, it was Manning and Brady. Well, now it's not just Manning and Brady. Now it's Mahomes and it's Allen and it's Lamar, all in the same conference. And you got other quarterbacks that are going to emerge. There was a time not that long ago where I said it was the golden age of quarterbacks. You had a bunch of veterans like Brady and others, Drew Brees, on the tail end of their careers, and you had young guys like Mahomes, Allen, and Lamar Jackson on the front end, and it was all kind of coming together. I think what we're going to see now as Mahomes approaches 30 and Allen gets older and Lamar gets older, you got other guys coming in as well. And we're going to have that again. And that's the problem. You got all these great quarterbacks. There's only one Super Bowl winner every year. And when Patrick Mahomes is hogging them all, a lot of guys are going to have the narrative they can't win the big one because they're dealing with a guy that can't lose the big one.
Absolutely, Mike.
Right?
And when you look, absolutely. And when you look at the Ravens, they have a Super Bowl team. This is the year the Ravens should win the Super Bowl. They have everything they need. Good offensive line. They have Derrick Henry, 2 healthy big tight ends. Yes, Zay Flowers, he's hurt, but Rashad Bateman, he's done well. They have everything they need. This is when they have to make the run. And unfortunately, it's going to come down to Lamar. And if he plays well and they move on, he's going to take a lot of credit. If they don't win against Buffalo on the road in a hostile environment, he's going to take the bulk of the criticism. It's just what it is. He has to win, bottom line.
Let's hear a little from Josh Allen, Bills quarterback, on the Week 4 blowout that the Bills suffered in Baltimore.
Going back and watching it, obviously wasn't our best effort. Felt like we didn't play our best football. But again, they got a really good team too. That they're playing this week for a reason. Their defense, the last really 8 to 10 weeks, has been superb. Their offense is fantastic as well. They got a lot of studs over there, led by Lamar, obviously, and it's a tough team to play regardless.
25-10 often sounds worse than it looks because you get 7 points for a touchdown, and a game can go sideways early. And if you can just stop the bleeding and avoid that knockout, a game can be very different. I think having a game like that in the regular season puts more pressure on the Ravens than it does on the Bills, because the Ravens will remember it was easy and the Bills will remember it was hard, and that gets factored into the mindset going into it. And it's just a little more on top of the win or go home. We beat this team. We were favored in the rematch, even though we're on the road. The consequences are as dire as they can be. It gives the Bills, how many playoff teams like the Bills, elite teams, play a home game in the playoffs and they're underdogs? There's just a lot of factors that Sean McDermott, the coach of the team, can use to get these guys ready to go out and execute the game plan. The game plan might work. The game plan might not work. Your players have to execute it. He'll have them in the right state of mind to go out and execute it because they've got the bad memory of losing badly. They've got the reality that they're underdogs at home. They got every reason to be frothing at the mouth when this thing starts.
Yeah, and I look at Baltimore too, and they have every reason to be confident, to walk in the game confident. To know that you physically manhandled those smaller defensive line, knowing that you can push those guys around. And remember, when it's cold, even though Buffalo and their defense, they're used to the cold weather, they still have to tackle Derrick Henry. And I just have not seen anybody do that on a consistent basis over and over again. And the thing about Derrick Henry is, you can stop him 8 times, you can stop him 9 times, and then all of a sudden he takes off. Or you can turn around and hand it off to him the very first play of the game, and he takes it 65 yards to the house. He's just a threat every time he touches the football. And then you add Lamar into that equation. Buffalo better hope that it snows, and it snows hard, because that's the only way you're going to slow down that offense.
And think about it. In this year where we have rediscovered the importance of the running back to professional football, the teams that got Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley are thriving. They're both favored to advance to their conference championship games. They could still come across each other in the Super Bowl. And the teams they both played for, the Titans and the Giants, aren't just on the outside looking in. They're at the bottom of the league. They were jockeying for the first overall pick. Jason Garrett's been harping on this all year, and he's right. If you have a great running back, it makes your life so much easier. Your offense opens up. Your line blocks better. How can it not when you have a guy who can gain a bunch of yards even if the blocking isn't 100% perfect? And I think we're going to see running backs, the great ones. That's the reality. There's running backs everywhere, but there aren't many great ones. And you know the great ones when you see them. And they need to be treated differently than the guys who are just like revolving door. Hey, this guy's gone, get another one. Oh, we can get another one. You can't get another Derrick Henry. You can't get another Saquon Barkley. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.